Good afternoon, and welcome to the second episode of Sunday Brunch. Today, me and my crew, WNBA crew in the house, Tamika Dixon, Penny Tola, and my good friend Tara Towns, child development and behavioral specialist, have a special guest, CEO of the National PAL, Mr. Jeff Hoodie, aka Hood. All right, and he's the CEO of the National PAL. We had a good conversation last week, so this show is gonna be great. Okay, going back to you, Tamika. Tamika, you have a son, and we talked about this in depth last week, you know, and I want you to talk about the importance of him having an outlet and a source of growth other than the PlayStation and the social media outlets out there.
So this COVID situation has kind of actually messed everybody up, and the kids are no exception to that. They've been forced to have to go to school virtually, and their whole lifestyle has kind of been changed and turned upside down, as just as well as the parents and everybody else dealing with the situation. So for my stepson, he's 15, and we're just trying to kind of implement other things for him to do other than going to school, because he only goes to school virtually online for 3.5 hours, 4 hours a day tops. So the other parts of the day, he thinks that he's supposed to just play PlayStation all day, and that's what him and his friends have been doing. So we've been trying to implement some other things for him to do. Out here, the courts are actually shut down too. The basketball courts, they got kind of like wooden blocks put through our neighborhood court. So he feels like, because that's that those blocks are in the hoop, he can't actually do anything else to work and enhance his game. So we've been out there trying to incorporate some things to help him get better. I told him all he needs is a driveway and a ball. Really don't even need that. There's a whole lot of creative ways that you can become better. So, we're working on some things with his handle fundamentally, that he can be better and utilizing, those things. And then, when the courts open up, he has an opportunity to go out there and put some time in on the court. But yeah, we just trying to get out and have him to do some other things other than sitting in front of playing NBA 2K and Madden and all of those things 8 hours a day. It's unless he monetizing it, that's not what he's doing. We got to have him doing some other creative things.
Absolutely. That was a great answer. I mean, and it's a great segue into, he doesn't need a whole lot of introduction, but I'm going to give him the introduction because this is my guy, Jeff Hood, and he's the Chief Executive Officer at the National PAL, now the National Police Athletic League, and we had that conversation last week. We talked about the PAL in depth and how important it was for us to be a part of that. And I mean, I did several full court press, junior NBA clinics. Tamika was in a couple in several cities across the country with the National Basketball Retired Players Association. And we went from, and I'm probably not going to mention all of the places, but North Carolina, okay, Virginia, New Jersey, West Virginia, New York, Vegas, Chicago. Talk about how instrumental that was to the kids.
Wow. All of that?
Yeah,
We did all of that?
Yes, okay. Okay, and then Tamika's going to come in next, and she's going to, talk about that experience as well.
You first, Jeff, and then I think
Okay.
I'll come in behind you.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, those were awesome times. Not just about basketball. We're pouring life and energy into these young kids in these communities, and it was tough, because a number of these kids don't have this type of an outlet, right? To from our perspective, to give them more than just this thing called basketball, right? And we've all played that game at different levels and enjoyed what that both the good and the bad that came along with that. But with these kids, we have to be able to give them a little bit more than just this thing called basketball or just this thing called athletics, because as we all know, that not everybody, as Mika was saying, not everybody is going to be able to monetize, this game to earn a living from it. And the thing that I try and do, and what we were trying to do with doing these clinics across the country, is to let people know is like, look, you can still be successful, without necessarily it being athletics. Some of these kids think that that's going to be, and I understand some of their train of thought growing up in the projects in New York, right? So I understand of trying to put your hope and your faith and all of that in the game in hopes that that's going to be your ticket out. I get that, but a lot more of these kids are going to need to be successful in some other endeavor outside of athletics. And the thing that we were
Absolutely.
doing with these clinics was to offer other opportunities, to them, to show them that not only just basketball, but there's a whole host of other careers within the game of basketball. You can be a GM, you can be a player director of player development, you can be, all of these other things. Don't just limit yourself to the game of basketball. But within all of that, and from our PAL mission standpoint, we was also about trying to get them to understand and come about from this linkage of kids, cops, and communities. As our mission is about establishing rapport and relationships with young people and those positive communications with law enforcement and community. So we was trying to build and help them to understand those positives and takeaways from that as well. And we were having great success with that, and hopefully maybe we'll get back to where we can continue to fulfill some of those, that partnership in that clinic, doing the clinics between PAL and the NBRPA.
Yeah, I mean, just the things that you did, and just incredible stuff you're doing over there with the PAL, and that whole movement that you had. Talk about um, how there were other segments to it. Just the financial aspect that you had to it with Wintrust, and they were teaching kids how to save a penny a day, and then they would have sort of like, what was it, $700 at the end of the year, and then how
Right,
motivated they would come out after that. And you have kids. I remember kids coming out saying, "Oh, I'm going to save 2 pennies. Now I'm going to have," and they would all get into a healthy
right.
conversation. Talk about the educational breakout sessions that we would have within the basketball camp.
Yeah, well, and that was what was the great thing about this, is we were giving and pouring into them more than just basketball, right? So we was pouring in life and life living skills. So we was teaching them about fiscal financial management, and even so much as not just for the long term, but let's try and work with them about trying to save some monies that they may be able to utilize towards their endeavor of going to college, or to start a business, or what have you. So we try and pour that into them then. And so that was one of the pieces that we talked to them. We also talked with them about career development opportunities. Um, again, because not everybody is on this track towards being an athlete. Some people, it may be engineering. Some people, it may be something in the STEM field, or what have you. So we always try to bring about some of those other opportunities to introduce them to, because you never know where that light bulb is going to go off in these young people. So we tried to mix it up, at each of the different locations that we endeavored into, and just to provide them another outlet and another opportunity for learning, and for them to understand that they need to put more into this than, they need to put more into their backup plan as well, of just, relying solely on basketball. Because, as we all know, you can be an injury away from none of that coming to fruition, no matter how good you may be.
Yeah, that's a powerful ending to that. Meek, we did camps together, and we did one in New Jersey, in South Jersey, I think it was in particular. Talk about how it was and that feeling that you get as a former player, just being able to give back to those kids, and just you can speak to them about the look that they give us when they're looking at us, when we're giving them information and how they value it, and just talk about the importance of that and your whole experience.
Right. For me, it was always an incredible experience to give back, number one. Um, and just to see the looks on the kids' faces, to be able to come into contact with a WNBA player, with an NBA player, and be able to get advice from those people, that meant a lot to me. Being able to share that time with those young athletes and show them that I was once where they were, and you can be that too if you do X, Y, and Z. And for them to be able to get that feedback from us, made that dream for them a little bit more real. So the experiences I had, giving back and being able to, be in a clinic setting and show them, some fundamental things that can help their game to grow. It was fun for me. And I always think back on those experiences and seeing those kids' face light up, when we come through the door and are able to share our experiences with them. So I always enjoyed, just being a part of those clinics.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was probably the greatest joy,
Yeah.
was just to see the looks on their faces, and to be able to see it, touch it, you know experience it, and then to get that advice, and just for them to because some of these kids are that are not in the best conditions, have the best living
Hmm.
conditions, and so they take that, and at least they have something that they could hold on to for a little while,
Right.
to get them through some of the obstacles that they may be going through in their life, and that just leads me right to Penny, being the GM over there with the Sparks, and getting involved in so many different programs that they have. You were instrumental in putting on the junior NBA, the WNBA clinics, to get fit, programs for the league. Talk about how important it was to connect with our youth and give them hope for a better future.
You know what, Adrian? Even long before the junior NBA and the WNBA camps, Meek would tell you, I had my own camps and clinics. They were called Points from Penny. And it's funny how it's come full circle, because I was a GM in LA, but I lived in Las Vegas, and I invited Tamika Dixon out to speak to expose all those young kids at a rec center to a
Nice.
WNBA player. And now look at it years later, Las Vegas Aces has, they're the Las Vegas Aces. I always felt it's important to give back, because we all know that come in contact with one positive person can stimulate a kid's life for the rest of their life in a positive way. I feel that it's sort of like what Jeff was saying. I think they need to, when I was doing my clinics and when we do junior WNBA and all the clinics, we like to try to bring people in that are actually not in basketball, because we have the players that are in basketball. Like Jeff say, everybody's not going to make it. So we try to expose them to architects, to lawyers, to carpenters, to people in electrician, to show them that there are other opportunities out there. And the ball is a way to bring people to connect, because sports always connect people. But you never know in the end what changes a kid's life. And to be around that type of positive energy it's like, how do you say, it take a village to raise a kid. And here in that junior NBA and WNBA, that's a village. That we hope that the kids come in contact with the WNBA players and NBA players, and they go home and they talk about it, and they want to be something positive in their lives. Because all it takes is one thing to click in that little mind of theirs, to set them on their way to becoming an extraordinary person. You know what they say: drop a rock in water, and it creates a ripple. And that's what we were trying to do with that program.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And that leads me to prompt terror, because you deal with a lot of, I don't want to use that term, but damaged kids. You know, they're dealing with abuse. They're dealing with abuse from their own peers. Talk about how important it is, you know, programs like that are to them.
Well, the first thing I want to say is for social responsibility, you must have a microsystem that models that. And a lot of these children, they don't have a full microsystem that heals and supports the whole child. And so they look in other avenues. And, resources like the PAL and Boys and Girls Club and all of these things, and even like Penny just said, connecting with people who are very successful and where they're trying to go, that does open up their minds to think. You have to have a thought first before an action, that it is even possible for them. And then to expose them once again to different avenues outside of sports, like Penny just said, with, carpenters and lawyers and everyone, to show them that there are different things. But getting back to that breakdown and the importance, the breakdown is that a lot of these kids, first of all, they're inner city, so economically disadvantaged, and then they have one-parent households, and sometimes that mom or even that dad can be overworked. So the modeling pro-social behaviors and modeling service and communicating for others, these are things that these children lack. And for that matter, I think a lot of children in today's society lack that, because of what Tamika was talking about with the games. I mean, it's almost like we're competing with social media for parenting. And it's really a place where we have to get control of that. It's so important for people or adults to expose the adolescents to empathy, because that is something that we're really lacking just as a universe, as we can see what's going on right now politically. We just lack empathy. And these things are developed, their core values, but the value systems are compromised. So we just have so many breakdowns all the way around, and now we're asking adolescents to process this and then to perform in society properly. I mean, it's overwhelming just talking about it. So having outlets such as this, to where they have a place to get this stuff out, where they see pro-social behavior being modeling. A lot of these programs like the PAL, because I went to the PAL, I'm from Bayonne, and I went to the PAL after school. A lot of these programs support them, and they have, caretakers and caregivers that show them that someone cares. Because how can they even care about themselves if they're not getting it in their microsystem? And then how can they extend that caring to the world and society if they don't even know or feel that it exists? So these things are they're imperative and they're crucial to their development. We develop these things at 5, but when it comes to children who don't have access to the proper developmental system, they can be 12 and be behind. Where someone was socially put in or has a home where that microsystem is supportive of that. So I think these avenues are beyond important to their growth and to how they show up for us. And then as far as sports, the importance of that is we know we team build. We know we are exposed to camaraderie. We're exposed to problem-solving skills. We're exposed to organization, goal setting, goal reaching, and just overall self-esteem and self-improvement. So I love sports. I don't play them, but I do. Not at all. My brother said my claim to fame is cartwheels when I was little. So, hey, that's what I do. But I do some. That's what he told me. But I watch them, and I honor people who are, in sports and have really, really taken it to that level. And I just appreciate all of you guys giving back, because kids are what I do all day long. And I really have reverence for you guys for doing that, because you are presenting another opportunity, no matter what it is, whether they're going to, further themselves in sports, or they're just going to show up as productive human beings that care in society.
Wow. That was amazing. And that prompts me to Vid. I mean, Vid, you can talk about some of the challenges that you face as a parent, with your daughter, her coming up, and, just viable programs that are out there that she should even participate in, because there are a lot of people out there that are out there just trying to make a buck, whether it's from basketball to teaching them football. Like talk to us about that. What are some of the things that maybe the panel can help you with?
When where I'm from in Virginia, we didn't have the PAL. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So we had
Yep.
boys and girls or whatnot. So when I moved down to Florida, that's when I became familiar with that PAL and everything. But as far as with my daughter Sophia, it's just getting into the right programs and organizations. Because right now, like you said, a lot of people are just chasing a buck, you know what I mean, and not really developing the youth, you know what I mean, like far as the life skills. If you want to talk about sports, the sports skills, the basketball, I got her in basketball, you know what I mean, but just anything else she wants to do as far as softball, whatever you have. But definitely down here in Florida, because I love Florida, but we lack. Um, if you look at our stacks, education-wise, we're in the bottom 5 in the country. You know what I mean? The funding doesn't really go to the different organizations like the PAL, Boys and Girls Club. You see them going down, being tore down almost every year. You know what I mean? So I guess my question would be, um, what do you suggest, or what programs or alternatives would you suggest someone like me that has a 5-year-old daughter that's very active but needs the life skills that the community can provide, just not just the parenting, if I'm making sense.
Yeah. Anybody want to share with him on that one? Maybe Jeff, because
Yeah,
the
yeah,
pal down there in Florida.
yeah. Can you hear me okay? Hello?
Yeah, I got you. I can hear you.
Okay, good. Okay, cool. Um, before rolling up to be the CEO of National PAL, I was over the PAL here in Charlotte, right? And the thing I would tell a lot of times, man, to parents of like 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, a lot of these parents, man, they come in with a different mentality of, I want my son to be MJ or LeBron, and I want my daughter to be Goody, Mika, Penny, and all of that. The thing that I tell them, I refrained a lot of times from sometimes doing very, very structured programming for all of these dollars, because I don't want you to waste your money. And for me, it's about at that age, having that child to just have fun, man. A lot of these kids have growing up to these days, they have no idea how to enjoy themselves. That's why a lot of these kids, like now that we're in this COVID situation, they're wilding out a little bit, is because they don't know how to have fun. They don't know how to be and make do by yourself, and the parents are a lot of times are charged with providing entertainment, and all for these young people. And sometimes I was talking to a parent on Thursday, and I says, look, sit them down, let them put them in their room, or in the house or what have you, and tell them to figure it out and work it out. And I'm not going to be, as the parent, you're not going to be the one to figure it out for them. The same way, like when I was growing up and all, we saw a lot. We wanted to play stickball. We needed to clean that lot out, if and to be able to make a little of a field to play stickball with or what have you. These kids, like I think Mika or somebody was saying, is like they wanna do the video game thing and all of those things. I think where we are challenged as adults, we have to help them to find that space of being able to think creatively. And that's my mantra right now. And as we're doing virtual mentoring sessions with kids across the country, and they're like, we can't go anywhere, we can't do anything. I'm locked down. Well, if you classify it as that, then yeah, that's what you are. I says, but there's several other things that you can be doing right now. Several of you guys are if it wasn't for this COVID situation, you would have probably failed math, failed English, or failed. Why don't you use this time to maybe work on some of those skill sets so that when you do wind up going back, you're in a little bit better situation academically than where you were prior to this COVID situation. Outside of that, creativity, maybe start putting some energy, and I'm not saying from a 5-year old because that's definitely too young, but definitely some of our middle school and high school kids start talking and thinking about, something that could motivate you that you may want to do in life, or you may not have had an opportunity to sit down and have meaningful conversation and dialogue with your mom, dad, or significant other in your home. Take this time to invest in that time now as well. And we just have to be a little bit more creative and not buy into everything is just so negative, and that type of thing. So that's where I come from.
Elaborate on that, some Penny.
I wanted to elaborate definitely on what Jeff was saying and what he was bringing to the table. I think this situation that we're in now, and the one thing that I loved about Europe, and anybody that played in Europe would tell you, that when it came lunchtime, all the stores shut down from 12 to 3. Like in America, we use our lunchtime, let me go to the mall or let me go here. Where the situation, like in Europe, because everything's closed, you had to go home and communicate with your family. They did sit down dinners and sit down meals. So I'm sure this being stuck in the house isn't much because they're used to being with each other.
Yeah.
I think when, you're in the house and it's a little off the topic of, dealing with a 5-year-old, but put down the phone, put down the video games, and let's have a constructive game of communicating with each other. Because like Jeff said, they probably haven't communicated as a family, a lot of people, in years. There's an opportunity also for parents that do work. I know it's still stressful because people need jobs, people need money, but it's another way that right now you can reconnect with your child and figure out what they've been into. Are they striving to be everything that you want them to be? I think this is a golden opportunity. Like I say, obviously there's a lot of stress, people need money, but it's a golden opportunity to put that family structure back there. Because I'm going to tell you right now, you can have all the programs in the world, but it will still never battle that family structure. I always look back at my own behavior and I always say, wow, now that I'm older, I understood. We didn't have very much money, but we had structure, which led to my success. We had love. We had clothes on our back. I didn't figure out that my family was poor until the world told me that, but I never emulated none of that because my parents taught me all the time, look a person dead in the eye when you're talking to them. Your word means something. And like I say, especially at 5, the best structure you can give them is that family structure, because that's what they're going to take out and, into that dynamic environment. And because my parents would always tell me it's not important what you do when you're in front of me. It's important what you do when you're not in front of me. And that's why I say we could be using this time reconnecting, getting to know, our sons, daughters, moms, dads. There's so many more things that we could be doing, as well as I always say, when you're in the house, why you got to play a video game? That's just you and maybe one other person. When I was growing up, we had to play board games where you have to wait your turn, like Jeff was saying, figure out the next move to try to beat somebody. It makes you clever, And look at even just spades. That's teamwork. Knowing what you think your partner has in his hand, but it still takes a team, and it's so many other things that we could be doing right now. And like Jeff said, if you think you lock down, you lock down. If you don't, and you create opportunities and being creative and giving your child some other alternatives, it can work. Even this time could be used in a positive way.
Absolutely. And I agree with you. I really do. And Vid said you want to comment on that, Vid?
Yeah, Well, Penny, Jeff, and Tara made a good point. I just want to emphasize that it's not just an inner city problem, far as that whole, having that family structure and spending time and talking with, because a lot of times, and I'm not trying to go left, but for those that view this, I want them to also understand that it's middle class, and I coached at a very predominantly prep school. And you will see a lot of times that those kids, although very privileged, they just didn't, because they had the money, their parents had the money, they just let the kids do whatever. They wasn't there for dinner or to, just talk with them in general. So the coaches and the deans there became parent figures. And I just want to emphasize that everything that you're talking about, like you said, in Europe, you know, things shut down at lunchtime. You go and spend, you go and, sorry about it. You go during dinner, during supper, you all eat together. You know what I mean? And you talk. You talk about your day, talk about your plans, talk about your goals. And I just think that, at least over here, that's missing, no matter if it's being from the inner city, you have one parent, two parents working all the time, or that you're privileged and your parent, just because you have money, just don't think, that you all need to spend that time together, just to talk about your goals, talk about the day, what's going on in school, what have you, So that's just all I wanted to comment on, and I'm glad that you all brought up and emphasized the importance of sitting down and talking and doing things together and being creative.
I wanted to elaborate on that. I totally agree with him. It's not just inner city kids; that's everybody.
Yeah.
It's
Agreed.
interesting now because I'm doing a lot of writing, and in doing a lot of writing, because it'd be amazing when you get older. You're like, oh my God, you have all this stuff in your head that you want to talk about and write about. And it's weird because I was writing about my parents one day, and it was so interesting. I was writing about my mom because my mom worked early in the morning, and I'm sure without her even knowing what she was instilling, because I look at it now, I'm an early riser, but it was interesting because she always rose twice as early to make sure we had breakfast, even though she was going to be leaving for work before we would to school, and we would all gather there for breakfast. And then she always cooked dinner at 5:45 after she got home from work. And it was that little thing where I always say, like,
Yep.
and I know parents are going to eat me up when I say this next phrase, but I'm going to say it anyway. It takes nothing for 10 or 30 minutes to have a conversation before the day begins with your kids. And like I said, a lot of people are going to say, oh, you don't have any kids, you can't do it, because the reality of it is that we all know now we make time for what we want to make time for. And my mom had a second grade education, but she was up at 6:30. We were eating by 7, and she would be out the door probably by like 7:30, and us still haven't finishing dinner. But that was that 30 minutes before we started, and we always ended with her. You can make 30 minutes to say, how was your day? What are you looking forward to? And guess what? If it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever it is, have a happy Monday. Have a nice day at school. You have to make time for that.
Yes.
You have to.
Amen. Amen.
And I hear a lot of yeses and amens
Yes.
in the back. And to speak to that, Penny, talking about not having kids, there's 4 people on this panel that have kids. They're grown and they're out of the house. And as coaches, I know how many kids I've fostered and developed, and had it not to toot my own horn, but had it not been for me, some of those kids would have tanked. So I know I heard a lot of hooms and ahas in the back, and Meek, you have a 15-year-old, so I know you can speak to some situations, sis.
Oh, absolutely. I'm learning every day because this guy is amazing. I'm telling you, he teaching me. But
He
Yeah.
said he's amazing.
yeah, he's a good kid. He's the belle of the ball wherever he goes. He's a popular kid, so he thinks he's doing a little something, but I tell him like I'm sure you all tell the kids that you come into contact with. It's nothing that you're gonna do that I haven't already tried or done. So
Exactly.
I'm always ahead of the game when you think you got game. I'm telling you, my
Yeah.
game is extra. I'm gonna get you before you get me.
Okay, and that's the competitiveness in you.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
Hey,
they
but
don't even
hey,
he's
hey,
know. They don't
definitely
Mika.
a
even
good
know the
kid.
cloth that you cut from.
Hey,
Yeah,
hey,
for
Mika.
sure.
Like the saying goes back in the hood, game recognizes game.
Oh, absolutely.
So.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, this has been once again another powerful, powerful piece to put out there in the atmosphere. I want to thank each and every one of you guys for participating on the panel and for my girls, coming back and doing it again on Sunday. Sunday brunch is going to get hotter and hotter every time we do it. So I would love for you guys start with Tara, and then I'll prompt each person in just to give some closing remarks.
I love what everyone said about getting to know your child, and we have the time now. This morning, I cooked Corey breakfast, and he wanted to role play, and I wanted to bring that up for a vid for your 5-year-old. Now he's 12, but he likes to role play. So we're eating, and he said, "Well, how are the kids? Well, how's your pet? Well, what's going on?" And I'm like, "Okay, I didn't even get it at first. I'm trying to eat so I could get prepared for this." And he's just questioning me, and he said, he said the only two places I'm allowed to go, this is what he said, because he's expressing to me how COVID is affecting him. This is what he's really saying. And he's like, the only two places I've been able to go is home and to this bar. And I said, what bar? He was like, the bar that we're in now. And I said, oh, we're at the bar? Okay. He said, but I'm not drink. He said, I'm not drinking because my wife said I need to lose some weight. But the funny part is that he's just telling me, Mom, I'm inside of this house. This is what he's saying. So role play is so important to be involved, whatever you have to do. And then natural play. They spoke about cards and all different, let's play, get on the floor, like play. Play has been completely canceled out by modern technology. And we need both of them, but returning to play, even when we have therapeutic sessions, we use play to talk to the children. We don't use psychology, jargon, and we use play. We get blocks, we get on the floor, and we get inside their head and we meet them where they are. So I think that with this time that we do have a time to restructure and rebuild, revise our family structures, our values, and just, hey, we had them. So it's time to connect to them. I think a lot of parents, I read the funny things going down online where parents are saying is mixing a drink mathematics, like funny little things because they're home with if they're home with their kids. And you know what? They're yours. You know what I mean? I'm saying, so how they behave has half to do with you and half to do with the outside world. So just connect with them and just meet them where they are. They're going through something right now, just like we are, but they're really going through it, like Tamika said. And so they just return to the game, the video game, the video game. So I just say play with your kids, talk to them, role play, go to the bar with them, wherever they want you to go with them, go with them.
Yeah,
And just use this time to instill values.
yeah, that's good advice. Tamika, give us some closing remarks.
Sure. So yeah, I was having a conversation with a few friends of mine actually yesterday, and we were talking about like coming out of this COVID situation, learning something new about ourselves and everybody around us, kind of basically. And for me,
Absolutely.
personally, I've actually started studying trading. Like I've always been interested in the stock market. But now, like I've kind of,
Yeah,
I'm looking to expand my knowledge. So like
it's a good pastime.
yeah, so like I'm working on like day trading and swing trading and moving it. Like I've learned some new things since this whole situation has occurred. And so I tell the kids all the time, like, this is the opportunity for you to kind of figure out who you are and who you want, where you want
Yes.
to go, who you want to be. Um, and don't get stuck on, the social media aspect of it, the PlayStation and all of that. Take some time for yourself. Learn who you are. Learn what your real, what do you really enjoy to do? What are your hobbies? Things like that. And speaking of my stepson, he's kind of taking an interest into the stock market because he sees me studying it all the time. So
Yes.
hopefully, it's something that he takes and learns early from and takes that and move if that's something that he wants to do and is passionate about. So, this not only has taught me, you know, more about myself and what I want to do and where I want to be, but also, with my stepson in the house, just trying to figure out other avenues where where he's learning to be excited about other things other than PlayStation.
Okay. All right. So don't let me find out you got the hot stock. You know them highs and lows. We got to do a whole other show. We got to
I'm
do a
learning.
Wall
I'm
And
Street
you
learning.
better
show.
give me the tip early.
Okay. Okay. The insider trading and going on. But Jeff, you want to give us some closing remarks?
Yeah, I'd love to. For me, it's not. It's a number of things, but one of the main things is not. Even though these are tough times, and as I think Tara was saying, it's tough times for young people that what they're experiencing. All I'm a little old school, right? So I hear some of that, but I'm not willing to give them a bailout, because I want to continue to encourage our young people to push and gain and access and fight through. The same way that our parents had to and their parents had to. There was struggle, amongst all of this. And I get it from this standpoint of you always want your child to have more than you had, right? And I get that. But I think,
Yes.
I was speaking with a friend not too long ago, and I said, yeah, it's great to be able to expose our kids to a little bit more than what we had. The difference is that they are attaining some of these things without understanding the work ethic that goes into obtaining, right? And
Mhm.
that's the thing that I want our young people to always understand is there's hard work in the grind. It ain't but so many people gonna hit. Excuse me, ain't but so many people gonna hit the lottery. Ain't but so many people just gonna be money poured on them. We got to get in and show them how to grind and work hard. And when you may be on a job and somebody may be saying a few negative things about you or what have you, don't flip, don't trip, don't go off, don't do shoot them up and all of those things. Be strong about it, internalize it, and keep working hard. And that's the thing I think with our young people nowadays of this thing of sense of entitlement. We got to get them past that, and we got them to understand as a people and as African Americans, we've obtained all these things, and it's been through hard work. It's not because things were given to us per se. We got to keep that, and we got to pass that on to these next generations so that they can keep that grind going as well. And Vid, you're exactly right, my brother. I totally agree with you that this is not just an issue that is about inner city youth. All of these kids growing up have issues, whether it's about I'm hungry and I don't have any food and I don't know what I'm gonna do for my next meal, to my daddy ain't gonna let me ride my BMW or drive my car because he put me on punishment. I get all of that from all of that whole spectrum, and all of these kids got to work through those things. And lastly, I want to say this, and Penny, I'm not sure if you was a PAL kid, but I hear everyone else, I guess for the most part, is I was telling Goody the other day, I was encouraged by what I heard from you guys at the last show about all of these young women such as yourselves being involved with PAL. And that's encouraged me that I'm going to be starting through National PAL, the Women of PAL initiative. So hopefully all of you that were PAL in your history and all, when I get this gear together and all that, I'm going to send y'all some women of PAL gear, and y'all can sport that and rep PAL as you need to as well, and be proud of your history as well.
Nice. I appreciate you too extending that from us. I know that DC probably had the PAL, and I'm sure that they had the Boys and Girls Club, and I appreciate you mentioning her name because I always try to save the GM for last, and I'm not talking about general manager. I'm talking about AK, the godmother, because she did it bigger. So take us out of here, Penny. Take us out of here.
Well, in D.C., to answer Jeff's question, we didn't have PAL. We had the Boys and Girls Club, and we had what was called Jello, the hands. Back in the day, that was sort of like PAL. But for me, and like I said, I don't have any kids, but I have like about 30 nieces and nephews that I happen to have a hand in raising, which me could tell you. Matter of fact, my one little nephew that used to be with me every summer from like 13 to like 18 when he discovered girls, he would come and rebound for us and do everything. And right to this day, he always say, Penny, I learned how to work hard from watching Tamika Dixon, Alicia Milton-Jones, Lisa Leslie, and Mickey, you know that, Lil Greg, when he went on to be a professional football player, though. And wow. I remember when he got drafted, Lisa Leslie called me and go, Penny, is that little boy who used to always be? I said, that's that little guy. He grew up to be a professional football player.
Absolutely.
But what I see is, even now, I do it with my niece, because I do have a great niece that lives out here. Her mom don't even let her play on the iPad. And she gets on me when I give it to her. But even when I give it to her, I feel that we have to realize technology isn't going anywhere. And I'm not talking about the video games, because those literally have to be shut down or be educational. But when it comes to this computer, think about it. When we were in school, remember on Monday morning, we had to bring book reports to school. What's happening in the world? You can take that same computer and be like, now, if you're going to be on there for 90 hours, 80 hours, you're going to tell me what's happening in the world. You know what I'm saying? You can do your math. Everything is so technological now where it just take a second to be like, hey, every Friday or every week, I want you to bring me what's happening with COVID-19 right now. What's happening in these different cities. And when you say what's happening, you have them to write about it. And because we do have so much time at home, get up and tell me about it. Everybody has an assignment. Get up and tell me about what's happening at home. The other thing I think is a lost art, because I'm sure people are going to say, well, everybody doesn't have a computer, but there's a library in everybody's town. And the other thing that I discovered when I got older was, and I probably wasn't even exposed to this as much, I traveled, but it was for basketball, where there's a museum, there's a history of something in everybody's town that every parent can take an opportunity and take them to the museum or take them to a famous park or take them to a famous landmark, because all the 50 states have it, where that is a form of educating. That is a form of traveling, where I didn't do much traveling with my parents. And luckily I had ball for that. But when I look back at it now, there's so many things that parents and kids can do together, that if they like, oh, you want to be online? Yeah, bring me a book report. Hey, you want to be outside? Okay, this Saturday or every other Saturday. I live in D.C., so I have to say those landmarks. No, we're going to the Smith Museum. You know, we also happen to have the African American Museum right now. You know, we can take our kids to that. So I just think it's about parents and, you know, significant others. When I say significant others, because sometimes the parents have other people that are in their lives. The more kids are exposed to things other than just that video game, the more knowledge I believe that kids will get. And not be so quickly to say, oh, let them go play video games, they're out of my hair. No, you have to be invested in that child. You know what I'm saying? You have to be invested. You have to put an effort in there and not leave everything just to our teachers and our basketball coaches when they get to the camp. No, you have to invest. children are just like stock, and not in that word. You have to invest in them in order for them to grow at the end of the day. So that's what I would say.
Absolutely. And that's great advice for closing it up. That's why I saved you for last, because you always come with the cannon. And I want to thank you guys for being a part of the show. I mean, you truly inspire. You know, each one teach one in effect mode. So finishing it up, you always know I say Sammy Sosa, and God bless.